Welcome to Bible for Modern Minds podcast.
We are opening up a really remarkable set of sources today. It's the testimony of a woman whose entire world was intentionally and profoundly overturned.
Yeah.
This is a story that goes way beyond just, a change of mind. It's about the total collapse of everything she knew.
It really is. We're focused on Lynana, an Islamic scholar from Alexandria, Egypt. And she wasn't just highly educated, she was a prized asset, really. Groomed since she was a child for religious and intellectual leadership.
Right.
So when she was sent to the U.S., her mission was crystal clear. Propagate the faith, strengthen the Ummah, the global community of the faithful.
But instead of changing the West changed her. And our mission here is to get past that surface level story and really extract the specific intellectual and emotional catalyst that forced this huge shift.
Exactly.
We want to understand what it means when this absolute conviction, something that's defined you for 44 years, suddenly just collides with an unexpected, undeniable inner reality.
It's the ultimate collision, isn't it? Between that intellectual certainty and a kind of subjective peace. And these sources, they let us trace the fault lines in incredible detail.
So let's start with her foundation, the making of Lina al-Zahra. Born in Alexandria, her family was just steeped in religious authority. Her father, a renowned Quran scholar. Her mother, from a long line of religious teachers. She says herself that for her, religion and identity were inseparable.
Like two halves of the same heart, I think is the phrase she uses.
Yeah.
And that kind of environment means identity isn't really chosen, it's destiny. Her training was incredibly rigorous, for very young at a prestigious Islamic academy in Cairo.
She was meant to be the ultimate role model.
The ultimate exemplar, a role model for devout Muslim women. The expectation wasn't just success, it was spiritual perfection.
And she nailed it. I mean, the sources describe her academic ascent, memorizing the entire Quran, graduating from Thiam's University, one of Cairo's best, and then becoming one of the youngest professors in the Islamic Studies department.
Right, specializing in theology and Arabic literature. She earned the title Lina al-Zahra, which is a title of real honor. It recognizes her status as an intellectual and spiritual pillar.
So for the community, she was a guardian.
A guardian, serving the Ummah through scholarship. She was everything her family and her mentors had ever hoped for.
And this impeccable record is what gets her the mission. Dar Alifa, a respected religious institution, they handpick her for a special mission to the USA.
And the role was subtle. She was a visiting professor, and the idea was to open doors in major universities, cultural circles, and just gently foster the growth of Islam.
She saw it as a jihad of ideas.
She did, and it's important to clarify for you listening. In this context, jihad means an intellectual and spiritual struggle, not violence. She was carrying her family's pride, their conviction. She really believed she was bringing truth to a land of disbelief.
A place she expected to be morally and spiritually bankrupt.
Completely.
But the shift, the real transformation, it starts the second she lands at JFK in the freezing cold. She had braced herself for what she'd been taught to expect. Immorality, coldness, disrespect.
Instead, she finds kind, polite people who held doors for strangers.
Just normal decency.
Normal decency.
Yeah.
People waiting patiently in line, showing casual respect to service workers. She was, according to her own words, utterly disoriented. Her theological training prepared her to debate vices, but it left her totally unprepared for unexpected good manners.
That's fascinating. The first crack wasn't caused by some big moral scandal.
Oh.
It was caused by politeness.
Exactly. This small misalignment between the rigid teaching and what she was actually seeing, it started this kind of silent erosion. On the surface, she's still fulfilling her mission perfectly.
Right, giving lectures, running the dialogues.
Writing articles defending Muslim women. But internally, all that success felt completely hollow.
Here's where it gets really interesting. She talks about this strange emptiness, a crushing restlessness. Her prayers, which were the cornerstone of her life, they suddenly sound hollow.
Spiritual dryness is what she called it.
Yeah. She was performing piety perfectly, but the feeling, the connection had just vanished.
And that raises a huge question, doesn't it? If you're doing everything right, why is the promised spiritual reward absent? She was isolated, successful, and yet deeply miserable. She's asking herself, why do I feel so alone? Where is Allah in this place?
And that restlessness, that pushes her into the next phase. She attends an interfaith dialogue group at NYU.
And she goes in ready for a fight.
Ready to debate, teach, and prove the superiority of her knowledge. But the fight never comes.
The catalyst wasn't a powerful argument against her faith. It was an encounter with profound, unshakable peace. She meets a woman named Sarah, an ex-Muslim from Nigeria.
And Lena's ready for anger, maybe defensiveness.
But Sarah speaks with profound peace and this calm conviction filled with love. It was completely disarming. Lena didn't know what to do with it.
It's the difference between hearing a doctrine and seeing a life. She starts observing other ex-Muslims from Iran, Somalia, Pakistan, and they all have this lightness, a hope, a genuine joy.
Exactly. She'd been taught Christians were confused, lost worshipers without the true path. But what she saw were people who were centered, patient, kind.
They weren't trying to win an argument.
No, they were just living their belief quietly. And that deep inner peace that she so clearly lacked, that was the psychological breakthrough. She realized her whole identity was built on effort and defense, while theirs seemed built on rest and acceptance.
And then came the direct challenge, but it was so gentle. A former Algerian imam, who is now a pastor, was there.
Right.
And Lena, a bit indignant, she challenges him about the certainty of her truth, and he just replies with this simple, crushing question that lands right on her own internal crisis. Lena, if Allah's truth is so pure, why does it seem so distant?
Wow. And that question just floored her because it validated her own crisis. It wasn't an attack. It was a mirror reflecting the emptiness she already felt. She says it just echoed in her heart, leaving her feeling empty, cold.
And that gentle approach, it broke her down so much faster than any aggressive debate ever could have. She remembers a Christian couple at a YMCA. After a discussion, they just said, "Thank you for coming. We respect your faith."
And that was it.
That was it. She said their effortless, undemanding love just broke her. They wanted nothing from her.
When your entire life is built around obligation and earning acceptance, genuine, non-confrontational kindness, it's revolutionary. She was seeing a peace she lacked, and it started to haunt her.
Which led her to take a terrifying step. Out of just pure intellectual curiosity, she walks into a church for the first time.
And she was, in her words, deeply disconcerted.
By the freedom.
By the freedom, yes. Women praying aloud, leading groups, people asking questions, crying together. It was so different from the mosque experience she knew, which was often about silence, separation by curtains, rigid roles. This was open, emotional access to the divine.
That experience really solidifies the shift. She stops trying to defend Islam and starts just seeking truth, whatever the cost. She begins praying differently, not the formulas, but just, "Oh Allah, show me the truth, even if it takes me away from everything I know."
Which is probably the most sincere and the most dangerous prayer she'd ever offered.
And the answer comes through someone else's story. A former Quran teacher, Miriam, is talking about reading the Gospel of John, and that phrase, "I am the way, the truth, and the life."
Right. And this leads Lena to a Bible she'd hidden away. She starts reading it in secret.
And the difference she feels is immediate, and it's theological. She notes that Jesus doesn't speak like a distant ruler. He speaks like someone who knows her deeply.
And critically, the way God is referenced. He's called good and Father Abba, not just a distant master.
That shift from master to Abba to father, that is pivotal.
It's everything. For someone whose theology is centered on God as the sovereign, unknowable ruler, a relationship of submission and distance, this idea of intimacy, of inherent goodness, it was world-altering.
And this brings us to that foundational shift from rules to relationship. This is the heart of her transformation. She starts comparing the concepts of sin and forgiveness.
In the tradition she knew, sin is basically disobedience. Forgiveness is conditional, it depends on Allah's will, and there's no real guarantee of salvation.
So your whole life is defined by this tremendous effort.
A lifetime of effort. And she contrasts this with what she's reading in the Bible. Sin as separation from God, and grace as this unearned gift, a restoration of that relationship.
It's the difference between earning acceptance versus just receiving a gift. She realized the path she'd followed her whole life, for all its piety, offered no real internal guarantee of peace.
Right. It relied on a lifetime of fragile effort. She also compares the central figures. Jesus, she notes, never wielded a sword, never sought wealth or power. He served the poor, spoke with sweetness and humility.
Whereas Muhammad was a multifaceted leader, a warrior, a statesman, a prophet.
And she starts to question the fundamental essence of each. She sees Jesus offering access to God, as she puts it, not through rituals or rules, but through himself.
The idea that access was immediate, a gift not based on a lifetime of submission, that was the theological tipping point.
But this liberation came at the highest possible cost. Her secret transformation quickly became public. A Christian friend tags her in a photo from an interfaith event, and it just spreads like wildfire.
And the family betrayal was agonizing. Her sister calls, trembling, and says, "This Satan is deceiving you."
Her brother writes this furious letter, calling it a betrayal, following the religion of the Crusaders. She went from being the family's greatest pride to their greatest shame, literally overnight.
And the institutional backlash was brutal.
Brutal and immediate. A cold, official message from the assistant to the Grand Mufti declares her tarnished, a source of shame. Cairo University puts her position under review. Her own mentor declares her dead to us.
So her entire history, reputation, social status, her income, gone.
Utterly ripped away.
Yeah.
And the pressure wasn't just distant, it became physical. 2 imams from a New Jersey mosque show up at her apartment,
Claiming she's suffering from a jinna demon and that she needs ruqyah, an Islamic exorcism.
It was a complete dismissal of her intellect, of her experience.
Yeah.
When she tried to explain her search for truth, the peace she'd found, they just hardened their faces. To them, the only possible explanation was demonic possession.
So, living in this crushing loneliness, having lost everything, she makes the final decision. She formally resigns from the university, tells her family she's staying in the U.S.
She accepts what she calls the cross, of being misunderstood, of losing her entire history, sustained only by what she describes as the living presence of Jesus.
The deepest pain, though, was being separated from her 3 kids still in Alexandria. Isla, who was 16, and the boys, Yusuf and Sammy, 11 and 9.
She fought for months to bring them over, facing this continuous emotional warfare from her sister, who accused her of planning to destroy them by turning them from Islam.
When they finally arrived, the atmosphere she created was key. She didn't force her new faith on them. Instead, the house just gained this quiet peace, free from the rigid rules and the pressure cooker of expectation they'd known in Cairo.
She gave her sons, Yusuf and Sammy, space to be curious. They started going to church not because she made them, but because they liked the music and the people were kind. Their laughter came back.
This quiet modeling of peace was so much more powerful than any argument.
Absolutely. But the eldest, Isla, was the most resistant. She'd been groomed just like Lena and saw her mother's conversion as a silent betrayal. She stayed distant, quiet, still wearing her hijab.
So how did Lena handle that?
Perfectly. She gave her space. She just prayed for her. And the breakthrough came so softly, through a story. Isla overheard the boys reading the parable of the prodigal son.
And was moved to tears.
Visibly moved. She finally breaks her long silence, asks her mother to read it with her, and then she asks this profound question, echoing her mother's own crisis. Mom, what if I'm wrong about everything?
Wow.
And Lena's response is the culmination of her entire journey, a total contrast to the culture of certainty they were both raised in. She just says, the worst thing isn't being wrong, daughter. The worst thing is never having the courage to ask.
She gave her permission to doubt.
Permission to doubt, which is the first step toward any authentic belief. And the transformation became visible. Isla eventually went to church in jeans and a simple blouse, no hijab. The source describes her as looking vulnerable, brave, free.
The physical sign of that internal freedom her mother had fought so hard to find.
Exactly. So if we connect this all to the bigger picture, Lena's journey was a total transfer of allegiance. She moved from a system based on personal effort, obedience, and intellectual certainty.
To one based on grace, acceptance, and a personal relationship.
Right. She clarifies she doesn't hate the framework she left. She just found a deeper, more peaceful truth.
And that highlights the critical distinction. Lena had the conviction, the intellectual knowledge you can memorize and defend. But what she lacked and what shifted her entire world was that subjective, personal peace.
A peace that transcends logic and culture. It wasn't something she achieved by effort. It was something she received as a gift.
Yeah.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. Lena herself described this powerful image she had. She imagined the scene in heaven where the prophet Muhammad would kneel before Jesus and say, it is he we have been waiting for. And that idea, it really challenges the boundaries of belief. It suggests that maybe the ultimate truth isn't about defending historical sides, but about simply recognizing the source of that transformation itself.